Ladies and gents, welcome back to Engineers. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got Costis with us, who's down at Plum. Costis, say hello.
Hello, hello. Pleasure to be with you, Elliot.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. We're going to be talking a little bit about Plum today. Plum's a super interesting product. I'm one of the 1 million. All right, so we'll uncover that at some point, or I have been in the past, truthfully, to give everyone a little bit of insight into Plum. Plum are recognised as, if you like, an AI assistant for your money. So what I mean by this is it can actually do some smart things for you around savings, investments, pensions. I'm not going to steal your limelight, Costas, because this is your part. This is what you've built. So can you tell us a little bit about Plum, your journey with Plum, and the business model in effect? Just go a little bit deeper into some of that intro there.
Sure. Thanks for the intro. I think it's quite spot on. I can add a bit of light to it. So I would call Plum as money on autopilot is a way we want to, phrase it.
Yeah.
It means that we have like a set of financial services that we offer to the users powered by automation. So basically, there is a lot of apps, I think, that have like, savings propositions like Save for You, or they have wealth management aspects to it, or even spending insights. But I think, to my knowledge, there is little to none that attempt to go at all of it in a way and automate all of it. So that's what Plum's ambitious and maybe audacious mission is, to make all this work for the user. So it means automate the finances, whether it is save for you effectively through AI, invest in a way that will grow your money, or maybe even find out bad deals that you're losing money and give you insights to do more with it. And where do I fit in that mission? I guess I joined in 2018 in September, so I'm almost 3 years now. I joined as the senior full stack engineer. Back then, we used to have a React application. We were in the Messenger chatbot, and then moved away from it. So that aspect of my job didn't really matter anymore. We didn't have web engineers. So yeah, at some point, I became an engineering manager. So now I mostly deal with growing the team, also hiring, but also cultivating leadership, promoting the engineering culture, and trying to make sure we have the correct decisions that enable the team to deliver and grow effectively for the future. So it's been a nice journey, because we were, since I began, we were, I think, around 10 to 15 engineers. Right now we are over 40 data scientists, backend engineers, front-end engineers. Altogether, we are more than 40 people. So yeah, it's been quite the journey, and yeah, we're still focused on delivering on that mission that I described.
Love it. Going into the mission, this is just something that came to mind. There's, like you say, there's a number of different companies on the market with some of those individual offerings. In your opinion, offering, if you like, savings, investments, and pensions, is that a strength or is that a weakness, do you think? Just purely from a opinion point of view?
Yeah, I would call it a strength, because you have all these people that are able to invest right now, right? They have the ability to do that. They have the capital to do that. They can do it by themselves, right? But ideally, you want to spread that mission to everybody. So it means people that don't actually have the income to support it. So savings naturally comes along with it. So you want people to save. So you're creating your own customers in a way. You're creating people that have the ability to invest, have the ability to contribute to pension funds. So I think naturally this is a big advantage. Now, if you want to say like how can this go wrong, right? This would go wrong if one is like purely executional standpoint, right? Can you actually do all these things well? So that's a challenge, and that's we are obviously always improving, and I can tell you that every aspect now is perfect. Job would be done, and I wouldn't be here to talk to you. So we are still improving each individual aspect of that. And the other is like can you actually target all those audiences in a way? And I think that's also a challenge. But my answer is this: what I said before, which means that you can have a tailor-made product, and that's actually one of the reasons we are here. We are to give access to all people, so we don't want to exclude people. We would just build an investment app, and I think that's what's ultimately going to play to our strengths, and we're going to have more accessibility because we have all the tools that each individual needs to actually be able to grow their money.
Nice. I think you nailed it, by the way. From the execution standpoint is pretty much what I meant when I was referring to weakness.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And I agree. I think, especially in today's market, I think centralization or an aggregation, if you can absolutely nail it, is key for customers, because everyone wants to have a look at their money in one place. If they have a choice, by the way, everyone probably would want that to happen. So it's potentially the perfect product offering if you can nail it, like you say.
Yeah, it's exactly as you say it, and I guess then it's about nailing it individually, because ultimately you're a financial app, so trust is very important. So it's not like you can fail to give access to people money from your app. It's not like you are a calendar app. Then okay, if it's not working for 5 minutes, it's fine. But if I need my money now, if I need to spend, that's a different story. So that's why it's really challenging, only from the domain perspective, not even getting into the tech side of things.
Yeah. A lot of people have got to love you, though, surely. 1 million people use Plum.
Yes, we get a lot of love. We've gotten also, angry people as well, right? So we get a lot of love. We get a lot of stories that tell us, I managed to do that, and they're genuine stories. People, will share them themselves in social media and say, okay, I managed to, I don't know, go get my cat to the vet, right? Because of Plum. I didn't have that ability otherwise. It saved me. And through these stories, if I can, add a bit on our proposition, we realized as other companies, have approached the same, we approach it a bit differently. We want to allow people to set financial goals. So we have the pockets. I don't know if you've ever seen them. So you have these custom pockets where you have a theme for them. So you can say, okay, I have an emergency fund, which makes sense for most users. You need to have, I said, some small cash to be able to, I don't know, get through an emergency. I mean, the cat is a story like that. You might want to go to holiday. So the nice thing here is that we built that in a way where we leverage behavioral insights and try to understand how we can make people put, meaningful goals. So we actually use the helpful default paradigm. So we suggest people the goal that probably suits best to their needs. And you see a very high conversion of people, saying, this is what I need. Or now I need to set an investment pocket because now is the time for me to invest. And that is, powered by a set of analysis and rules in the background. So we try to understand also what is the next logical step for a user.
I saw your smart algorithms.
Yeah.
Honestly, Deliveroo would be a non-stop feature in my Plum account. Trust me on that one, by the way. The algorithm would be picking that up. Let's uncover some of the tech part. So talk to us a little bit about you walking in 2018, senior full stack engineer, React app in place. Help us understand a little bit about the tech environment then and the journey to now. And we can uncover some of the decisions in there as well.
Yeah. Very good question. I think it's going to bring some stories. So then, as you said, we had one React web application, right? We were a few engineers. We had one Python monolith, which was deployed into Heroku. And, to not get into many details, I mean, the big changes is now instead of a React web application, we have two native apps, so iOS and Android. And we also are on GCP. So, I mean, these are two very core changes and how we operate today versus how we operated then. So I can, say why. I mean, some of it is business, some of it is tech. So it's a little bit of both. So about the applications, it's mostly business because, we realized that chatbots didn't have the steam that we hoped they have. So messenger chatbots were not the platform to manage the money for the long term. So people expected, financial an application. A lot of how you use financial apps has to do with interacting with screens, seeing your balance sheet. So, if it were just a savings app, then maybe it would be still good. But as we expanded, it didn't make a lot of sense. So we decided we can offer much more quality by our native app. So of course we had to build proper mobile friendly APIs for that. So because a lot of functionality that we had in the chatbot needed to move into REST API functionality. So that was a journey as well. We explored how to best structure our APIs to suit now mobile applications. And I guess the next big thing was moving from Heroku to GCP. This was, made sense also because Google, approaches and says, okay, you look like a promising startup. Here is some credits that you can have, which is a common strategy of all these cloud providers. But also we knew that, Heroku was not a place, for us to be as we scale much more because we wanted much more autonomy on how we handle our infrastructure, as well as, Heroku is very pricey if you go into as more managed as the cloud services, the cost is higher, and Heroku is like very opinionated, very very simple stuff that you can do to scale. It's if you don't have an infrastructure engineer, then you're well with Heroku, but we decided we want a more managed solution, a less managed solution. That's where we did the big migration from Heroku to Google Cloud back in 2019, actually.
Okay. What made you choose GCP over the others? Because I'm sure, like you say, there's a cloud offering, there's credits. What made you choose GCP? Was it the compatibility of some of the other services that you'd already got or you were going to write, or something else?
So it's a combination of things. It is also the credits, but also it's about, if you are in a Dockerized environment and, Google is the most native place to run on Kubernetes. So, we wanted to leverage all this exceptional functionality of Google's compute engine and all the stuff that Google has, out of the box. We figured it's a place for AI companies as well. I don't mean that, there are not services in other Google platforms, but a lot of people are more familiar with Google's managed solutions for, doing these things. So buying all these things together and, hiring people that are more familiar with GCP, then you have a match. So there was no reason to go to another provider because our expertise, the vision that we have and the tools we wanted to use and the credits that we received, all these things pointed to Google Cloud. So it was an easy decision compared to how big it was. So we were all confident that it was a good way to go.
Nice. Okay. We've spoken about cloud services. We've spoken about native apps, chatbots. Help us understand a flip side and what, as customers, we don't necessarily see what's going on under the hood. How do you build something or think about building something that is highly performant and scalable? If we think about 1 million customers, notification engines, requests from customers, etc.
Yeah, good question. I can approach it from a process standpoint and then technological standpoint as well. So both of them are equally important in a way. So first of all, you approach the need that you want to implement. And for me, if you have like the product specs of something, and I mean mostly about ambitious project, right? Not, adding something small. So I don't know, like basically adding the investment proposition into an application as a whole. That was a huge thing. All these things, we approach them. We really try to get a very high level, concrete description of what we're building and why, and then try to allow the technical people to get into the nitty gritty, as they say. So then We have some people call them RFCs. We call them technical design documents, and it's a more free and
Okay.
custom-made template. So we do that technical design, which usually describes. It depends, on the individual as well. It describes on a high level what I'm going to need, like what persistent store am I going to need, what APIs am I going to need, what's the store look like, is it tables in the Postgres, how are they, and you have all the high-level architecture in place in the design. This is reviewed by all the stakeholders. Ideally, it's like, all the, even product people take a look at it and understand, at a very high level of it. Even mobile people, maybe if it's a backend feature or vice versa. So that, is the foundation of the understanding of what we're trying to build and how. And we really prefer spending more time there versus, scrutinizing the code or the details of the implementation. It's never a good idea. So what I always believe is like, it's always architecture first and then code second. So really, make sure the architecture is sound. Then the code will be fixed. It's fine. Like you can introduce a GitHub issue and say, okay, I don't like exactly the readability of this function. That you can change at any point in time with almost zero cost. So it's almost fun. Can't really easily, and there is a lot of frustration in changing the architecture later on. So that's part of the. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, does everyone get involved in system design and architecture?
So it depends. I mean,
from an engineering standpoint.
So we try to always, our approach is get out of your comfort zone. So if you are at comfort level X, we want you to tackle something which is X plus one at least. So we try to put people on the spot in a good way, right? So if we feel like you are almost ready to take a design to kickstart it, to drive it, we will give it to you. Of course, we don't expect a new junior member to be able to, drive the conversation how we build stock trading in our application. But we generally want to expose all the people to the design. So we want people to read it. So we try to invite as many relevant people as possible. Of course, you cannot invite the whole engineering team. The design documents, though, are public to anybody. So anybody can come and comment on them. But we do invite people and we say, okay, take a look at it, read it carefully and comment on it. Like this is the phase where, even if you don't have something to say, it makes sense for the most possible people to have context, because then you have the redundancy, then you have people that you can jump into to assist and they have context. So for us, it's a lot about being transparent in that phase to, avoid surprises later. Of course, there is not always is it a sunshine, right? There have been times where, the time is more of the essence and not as much exposure as I would love would happen on the project. But generally, the culture is that, and we try to keep it.
Nice. Okay. I think it's a pretty good culture. Consistently throughout the Engineers Podcast, actually, I've spoken to teams that have built TDAs or TDCs, same meaning, I'm pretty sure, or to everyone's individual meaning, playbooks, other things. But I think the concept of actually involving everyone, well, not everyone, but as many people as possible, it is quite key for understanding and visibility on what you're building and why. It's usually the why as well, because if you see something without any context, then you're never really going to learn or understand why it was built a certain way. I think the exposure, maybe if you don't have the ability yet to be able to go and design something individually, but the exposure to it will only send you in a positive upward curve in your learning anyway. And that visibility for sure to other people, right?
Exactly, yeah. And I think one important point to add here is that a lot of it has to do with the no blame culture as well, and the culture of allowing people to ask any question or to make mistakes. For me, if you don't have that, then you incentivize the wrong action. So someone says, okay, I have more to lose than gain if I comment on design. That is really terrible to have in a company. So for me, a lot of it is about incentivizing people to try and make decisions, to make mistakes. Otherwise, you end up with a lot of people looking at other people to do the thing, so that they are not put on the spot. For me, it's about putting people on the spot, and even the attempt, having a go at it, is to be celebrated. So for me, that's why I like people taking tech designs, doing a lot of stuff, even when they feel it might be earlier or something, because I want them to feel, celebrated. Even if you start a discussion, like with a mistake, if I say something wrong, it also starts a discussion, right? It starts a discussion of how we're going to do it right. A lot of times people don't do that because they are afraid of being wrong, but in the end, it would be beneficial. Like even mistakes actually drive you closer to, always they drive you closer to the right thing. So for me, it's a component that you can't separate from the culture.
Okay. I think culture's key. The culture part is absolutely key. This might sound like a really dim question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. 2019, you're obviously looking at your estimations, what you need to go and build. In your words, architecture first, code second. Does that change along the way when you are building it? So let's fast forward 2 years to today. Do some of those estimations and designs rapidly change or change slightly along the way from what you thought you were building or how you were going to build it to what it actually turns out to look like to be built?
Oh, absolutely. I think this happens. Most of it has to do with how the product evolves, and in a startup environment, pivoting. That's how you build a successful startup, right? You find out what people need, and you try to the shortest path to failure. So if something is not working for you, you understand that you need to take another path. So a lot of the times you just end up building something quite different from what you planned on 2019. So in 2001, you're not building the same thing again, right? So I think a lot of it has to do with that. So yeah, some architectural decisions now don't make sense, but this is also something that educates our decisions, is to not assume too much of what the future brings. It means, let's say you want to kickstart a new functionality that has to do with a partner. Don't overly abstract it in the way that you expect to have multiple partners. You may never have. You don't have to do it. Of course, there is some key principles that you will follow, that you're not binding to one partner, for example, but don't try to assume how this will evolve too much. Don't try to assume a scale that maybe it's still an MVP, so it might not make the cut in the end. So for me, it's also about simplicity. And I think Ritchie, if I'm not mistaken, even said like premature optimization is the root of all evil, right? That's concepts we try to have. So we try to make less and less assumptions of what the future will bring. But yeah, still, you will get into these situations where, you made a decision and now, looking back, it doesn't make a lot of sense and you need to work on it. But of course, you will work on it only because of a need, right? Not
That's like my question asking. As soon as I said that question, it's a little bit like your assumptions part. Don't assume too much, and you probably look back and think, why did we think that? Asking that question, I thought, 2 years, why did I ask that? It makes a lot of sense with sprints, iterations, retrospectives, actually validating what we're building or what you're building. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I think generally speaking, I was just pretty interested as to maybe if you have a collection of designs, could something look quite different? But it's interesting to hear your viewpoint.
Cool.
What's the journey been like with the people scale? How tough's that been?
That's a great question. Anybody, I think, who will tell you that this is an easy task, or we're just hiring the best people, or everything naturally falls in place, I think will be lying. And I think even however much experience you have, it's always a challenge. It's always even if you have done it in the past, it's always a new time that you do it, and the environments have changed. So, for example, nowadays, I think hiring talent is different than it was, I don't know, 2 years ago. It always evolves. So, yeah, it's been challenging. Yeah, I mean, even here in Greece, so we have we opened up remote positions just for that. So we said we understood that we cannot not compete with companies hiring remote. We needed to find the right talent wherever it is. So maybe a bit late, but not too late. So yeah, at some point we said, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to hire, I don't know, across Europe at least, across the same time zones, and find the best talent there.
Yeah.
Because we were competing with companies that were, maybe even going after our talent. So we had to be smart about it. So hiring on itself was a challenge, finding, the right people, especially you want to preserve the culture that you have. If you really want to do it, in the current climate, you will have to make a lot of interviews and a lot of discussions. And I don't know if people can imagine how much time this includes, but you really, really have to look for people because there is a lot of competition. If you have a high standard in culture and a barrier on the technical side, this is a hard problem to resolve for sure. Yeah, it's been a challenge. And then apart from that, you have also, organizational challenges. How do you effectively make all these people efficient and give a structure around them so that they can be their best, they can work on important things, they can feel, cared for, and also be autonomous, because we are a lot on autonomy, but it's a different thing in 10 people than in 40, right? So yeah, these were main challenges that we faced, and the solution, I would talk a long time, so you can ask me if you want some details.
The people scale at the moment is and for the last period of time has probably been the toughest challenge to solve that I hear, well, that I see and feel as well, by the way. We spoke to Hopin really recently, who have just gone into the stratosphere in terms of hiring, growing the company, and the people part and hiring is just the toughest nut to crack, and getting that right. And there's so much energy, effort, intensity that goes into it, but especially the onboarding process, the safe landing of people and engineers, and understanding the system, looking at your designs, getting to grips with what they need to do. I think that is the toughest element, as opposed to building a really highly performant back end, right? It's the people part. So I agree.
I agree 100%. Even a very senior engineer in our team was saying, the code actually reflects the people. So yeah, it's about the people always. Like you can see how people think in the code. So it's always about people. So people will build the systems, and I don't mean just engineering. I mean the way of cooperating. So yeah, that's a challenge, and I think companies understand that, and that's why there is so many so big demand for senior leadership in companies, because it's not a simple task, because people are tough, right? Even if you take, psychologists can't improve people all the time, right? So imagine all these people without inherent people skills, or having studied how to connect with people, drive change, motivate, and enable people. They are asked to do that apart from the technical stuff. So yeah, it's a very challenging subject.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, on and off the podcast, as in your architecture reflects the communication in the business, which is probably, or hopefully, in effect, the same thing as what you're saying.
Yeah. I think it's a known truth in most technical companies.
Yeah. There's a particular topic or piece that you and I wanted to discover, like technical challenge part. There's obviously a million users, okay, with Plum, that use Plum. So they've all got thousands of transactions to identify, and thousands more other suppliers to compare prices against. Okay, so there's quite a lot of complexity in that problem as it is. So What's pretty challenging about building this?
Yeah, very good question. I think you described the part of what is really challenging. So it's we have all these transactions, as you said. So we integrate with open banking with banks, and we get all that data.
Yep.
So it's an unimaginable amount of data. You have to process this data to get insights for the users, whether it is to suggest, as you said, an alternative in a supplier, or whether it is to provide insights on their spending behavior, which we also do, or it is even to analyze for the algorithm. Okay, part of that has to do with even consuming all the data. So we have pipelines there. We are really asynchronous. RabbitMQ has a tough time all the time because there is a ton of tasks being processed. So our bread and butter is trying to guarantee exactly once execution of the stuff. So it means, building idempotent tasks to process stuff, and then making sure that we never miss any event or task in our system. So that means, if we have these two together, we effectively have idempotency, and doesn't matter how much time it takes, doesn't matter how many times it fails, at some point it's going to be okay. So that's the stronger guarantee we need. Then on the performance side, I think in modern distributed systems, you kind of don't consider CPU and memory as a problem. You say, okay, I have as much as you want. I scale to 1 million if I need to. So, okay, apart from cost, of course, but that becomes a problem much later on. The elephant in the room is usually I/O operations, persistent store, so databases. Even I/O operations have to do with other partners. You need to communicate to other APIs, and then you are bounded by their own performance limitations. So for us, a lot of it has to do with that, right? So we have the scalability in infrastructure terms and application terms, and we are always trying to improve the I/O scale. You can have million workers processing a transaction, but if you have one database writing at the same time, you have sometimes race condition scenarios. You can't write the balance twice at the same time. You might miscalculate. Or there is a lot of challenges like that, right? It's not a problem that you solve once and it's gone. So we've been exploring using the right persistent store for everything. We've been exploring Mongo for when we have needs to high read needs on large document-like structures. We use Mongo for that. So do we need time series? We use TimescaleDB for that. So we try to separate the problem and use the right tools. There is honestly not one solution fits all for that, and you need to explore vertical scaling, horizontal scaling, and application optimizations all together to make this work.
That's a really interesting concept that you've just helped me understand. So separating the problem, and then do you stress test it, if you like, in a number of different ways to understand the best solution? And then you think, cool, that's that part of the jigsaw fixed. On to the next part, and if you break it down into different areas.
You're talking about scalability and performance, right? Again. You mean, I guess the next part for me, and I don't know if that's the area you want to explore as well, but I'll go into it. It's about, I mentioned partners, right? So as Plum, we are using financial services from a lot of other companies to offer the user the best automation solution. So we have payment services, we have e-money services, investment services, all this stuff. They are our partners, and they also tend to have their own complexities or differences from each other. So they have their own rate limits. They have their own way of failing. A lot of it has to do with making sure that basically the limitations of your partners will never affect your overall performance. So you try to separate. You rate limit your partners in the way that will be also. You will not, store them with requests, and they will not have a problem. But you also need to make sure that, as let's say a partner sends you 1 million webhooks, tells you, okay, these 1 million transactions just succeeded. This is also okay. We use RabbitMQ and stuff like that, but you need to have in place the rate limit that your system can handle because of the interactions with your partner. So you need to take into account not only traffic you have from your customers, stuff like that, but you need to take into account how will these guys actually affect me, because these are big operations, and then you build the system for them as well in a way.
You've obviously built an impressive user base. You've obviously built an impressive team. Help us understand how you hire engineers. Okay, we're going to move on to you hiring in the next couple of moments, but help us understand how you calibrate for engineers, I guess, because there's obviously levels of complexity that you dive into when you're building what you're doing. So help us understand how you calibrate for engineers and also what you're looking for before we wrap up.
Yeah. Right now, I start a bit with what we're looking for. So we're looking at all levels. We are always up for getting, the best talent that we can at every level.
Yep.
So it's not about, we are only hiring senior people, right? There is room for people to grow into a lot of levels. So that fits into the
Yep.
calibration as well. So we do hire junior engineers. We do hire senior engineers. We have principal engineer positions. We have, a lot of levels. So of course, the expectations are a bit different from each level. The way we do it is we have quite a flexible way of hiring, and it depends also on the platform. So it's sometimes there is difference in the backend, in the mobile side, but in a nutshell, we offer the candidate the possibility of doing a technical assignment at his own time or doing it with us. So what do you feel most comfortable with? And we pass the ball to the candidate. And we're looking, mostly in these exercises that we do, because we always do also some greenfield exercises live to see how that person thinks and communicates with us. We're looking a lot at critical thinking in general. We don't really care about particular knowledge in particular technologies. The one thing we will never compromise is, we try to never compromise. It's not always easy to be sure about it. It's the cultural output. So you go in and you try to solve problems or point problems? Will you come in and be respectful to your team? Do you value team and product more than, just technical excellence? Because at the end of the day, engineers love technical excellence, but at the end of the day, if you don't come here also for our mission or the people, then probably it's going to be your own agenda and your own personal evolution in tech. So in that aspect of things, we really care about bringing in people that will work towards the same goal as everybody and will be respectful and helpful to their teammates. So for me, I have hired people just because they have these very strong cultural elements, even if technically maybe they kind of missed the mark, but it's fine. I think a lot of the times, if you see this attitude, you can fix most technical things later.
Okay. There's another interesting part, and this is way more prevalent nowadays, that people are hiring based on, let's call it problem solving, or I see it more formally as system design than technologies. They are conversations that are happening way more, let's just say 2021, than I've seen in the last 5-6 years. So that evolution, I think, is quite interesting. Naturally, some people might have deferred to that anyway 2-3 years ago. Okay, so I'm not saying that, but over the last 8-9 months, people have had to be a lot more flexible with, let's just call it a group of engineers. Let's call it Go. A group of engineers, you massively segment the amount of smart people that you could go and talk to just because of a programming language. And you touch on the remote element as well. If you're not competitive with all these companies who are hiring agnostically and hiring remote, those two elements dramatically improve how many people you're going to go and talk to. So it seems if you're doing things the right way, which is good to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it doesn't make sense in 2021 to bound yourself from technology and location in a way. It's a new way of doing things. At least for startups, I don't know, if there is other rules for other types of companies, but for us, yeah. I mean, technology, you should be able. Okay, it's maybe also it's because we are in Python 3, so basically we believe that the learning curve is a bit less than other languages, but I don't think if we had Go, as you said, or anything, that we would say to anybody, you need to have like 3 years of experience in Go. Naturally, you don't have to know all the nitty-gritty of the language, every single of your 50 engineers, right? So if you have like some platform engineers having more experience in Go, you can spread that knowledge, you can fix the very core stuff. But I don't think it makes sense to bound yourself by this experience in that particular technology. It's also not fun, So why would you do it?
Yeah.
Why would you create, I don't know, Go engineers? Why not have like the concept of engineering as something which is creating great products using the means that are appropriate? So I don't really agree with that in general.
Yeah, okay, good point. Hiring remote in Greece, do you hire remote in London? Sorry, in London, UK.
We have people in other cities in UK, so we are really flexible about the location. We have people in Portugal, in Italy, in France. We have across many locations. So yeah, we've really become a distributed team. So now our team follows our system, which is also distributed. But yeah, I guess we are at that level. Not though downplaying the importance of having offices and being able to gather and together at points. So we do encourage people to visit and be at the offices in the same location.
Nice. Okay. Any other lasting messages that you want to drop to us guys and girls?
Guys and girls, if you happen to be engineers, consider joining Plum. That's one of the messages. We're building an exciting product. In general, I think it's really enjoyable doing these conversations. I enjoyed all of our questions, and I guess maybe final message is I can put a message for engineers. It's about just try and join companies where you identify with their missions, and that makes your life and motivation that much easier. So I think that's something I learned. So the basis of your motivation should always be the results you want to drive, whether it is for your colleagues or people. So for me, a message is try and work for a mission that suits you. So yeah,
that's heartfelt.
Yeah,
I love
really,
that. I agree, though. I'm not being sarcastic. Yeah. With plum.com, head down to their careers section. Come and join a good team. Great mission. Money on autopilot. We've spoke about 1 million people who have invested in the product. Literally invested. 1 million people are using the product, and there's so many reasons why. So go and check these guys and girls out. Have a look at Costis with plum.com. And I want to say a big thumbs up and a big thanks for you as well. You've been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, you too. I really enjoyed this, and your questions were always to the point. So yeah, it helped me also think about all this stuff more and put into context. Thanks.
Oh, good. No, pleasure. Guys and girls listening, give everyone a like, share, subscribe, support, thumbs up, whatever other emojis that are out there for our efforts, Costis efforts, Plum's efforts, and energy that's gone into this. Peace and love, everyone. See you soon. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Enginears is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Enginears.io. It's no_. We've also got a website, which is enginears.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.